I was at the county clerk's window with a blue pen in my hand when my son slid a stack of papers toward me. "Just sign, Mom." The clerk glanced over her glasses and whispered so only I could hear, "Ma'am, you don't have to do this today." My hand stopped. The top page said, "Power of Attorney." The second had his bank numbers for my insurance payout, and the clock on the wall said 4:16 p.m., 14 minutes before the office closed for the week. If I signed now, every dollar meant to rebuild my storm-torn house could be routed away for convenience. I looked at my son. I love that boy, but love is not a signature line. The clerk's whisper felt like a lifeline thrown across a fast river. I set the pen down. Not today. If you're hearing this at your kitchen table, in your car, or while you walk your block, let me tell you how I got to that window, how a tornado peeled my roof, how a folder appeared at a Cracker Barrel booth, how a diner, a firefighter, and a librarian with a highlighter helped me keep my name on my life. Because before you understand that not today, you need the road that led to it. My name is Eleanor Hart. Everyone calls me Ellie, and I'm 63 years old. I live in Cedar Ridge, Missouri, a place where the feed store knows your birthday and the banker knows your maiden name. I ran a little crafts and quilts booth at the Saturday Farmers Market, the kind of booth where women stop to touch the stitching and tell you about their grandmother who could piece a star quilt with her eyes closed and a baby on her hip. I baked banana bread for trades, bartered pot holders for eggs, and came home with a tired back and a full heart more Saturdays than not. On a certain Sunday in May, a tornado visited our county. It wasn't the kind you see in movies, a single photogenic funnel taking a deliberate path like a bad idea. It was a messy hopping thing that dribbled wind down back roads and bruised barns before it took a shining to my block. The sky went the color of old dishwater. The sirens wailed their flat, mechanical cry. I did what you're supposed to do, grabbed my tote, hustled to the interior hallway, and sat on the rug with my hands clasped tight. My knuckles felt like chalk. I have never heard a building groan before that day. It's a sound you can feel in your knees, a sound of nails changing their minds. When it passed, the world was quiet in that stunned way that comes after the worst kind of noise, when birds don't remember how to be birds yet, and you can hear your own breath like a stranger's. I opened the hall door and walked into a house I recognized only by the shape of the rooms. The roof was peeled back like a sardine tin. Rain had poured itself into places rain has no business being. One wall was spared, one wall was gone. The rest looked drunk and needed a lie down. By Tuesday, a man from the county with a clipboard taped an orange condemn notice to what was left of the front door frame. He did it gently, as if gentleness could make the paper say something kinder. I stood on the sidewalk with my neighbor Vi and watched him walk away. Vi put a hand on my forearm and squeezed. "Come stay with me," she said. "I got the pull-out couch and the good coffee." We lasted one night. Me and Vi and her dog that snores like a tired motorcycle and her grandsons who slept in a tangle on the living room floor, smelled like summer dirt, and asked if my house felt weird with no roof. The Red Cross set up cots in the gym for folks who needed them. I took a voucher to a motel near the highway instead, because I wanted a door to close and a shower to cry in without waking a house. It turns out loss weighs more at night. In the daytime, I could stand on my sidewalk and make lists, call insurance, take photos, dig through the damp for anything that still looked like mine. At night, I lay on a bed that had seen better days and smelled like bleach and old sorrow, and the lists dissolved into what-ifs. The ceiling was stippled and low. The air conditioner coughed at its job. Traffic hissed and muttered outside my window.
I learned the sound of semis downshifting off I-44 and the hum of the Coke machine 2 doors down. I learned that grief smells like damp drywall and that the cheapest lampshades make light that looks tired. On Wednesday morning, I called my son. Aaron lives 20 miles away in one of those new subdivisions where every cul-de-sac is named after what used to be there. Birch Grove, Meadow Run, Orchard Heights. Like everyone wants the memory without the mess. He's 35, a mortgage officer who learned how to make grown people feel like fourth graders in the principal's office if they forget a bank statement. He's engaged to Brittany, who is younger than I expect every single time I see her, and who can speak for a solid 5 minutes about throw pillows. When he answered, I could hear Brittany in the background closing cabinets. She has a way of closing cabinets that puts a period on the end of every thought. "Mom," he said, speakerphone tinny, "are you okay?" "I need a couch for a couple of weeks," I said. "The house is a mess. Insurance says they'll send the adjuster, but, well, you know how that goes." There was a pause, a small one, the length of a cupboard door sliding home. Brittany's voice came onto the line, bright as glass. "Oh, Ellie, we're so sorry. We were just talking about your street. Awful. And we've got the IVF schedule coming up, and my therapist says the house needs to be a sanctuary. But there are some really nice extended stays near the mall. They have kitchenettes, you can make oatmeal and everything." Aaron jumped in. "We can help with a few nights. We'll meet you at Cracker Barrel at 6. Put some cash on a card to get you started." My mouth said, "Okay, honey, thank you." My heart felt like a dull spoon against a bruise. I told myself I was grateful. Gratitude is a reasonable thing to feel when your child offers help. I told myself not to take tone too personally. Tone is slippery. It slides between words and turns love into something that feels like a performance review.
We met under a porch roof lined with cast iron skillets and nostalgia. Cracker Barrel smells like syrup and gift shop candles and road fatigue. They sat on the same side of the booth. Couples in love with trouble do that. They ordered biscuits and asked if I wanted the sampling of countrysides, like I was a woman at a tasting instead of a woman who'd lost her house. Aaron slid a prepaid Visa across the table, then a glossy folder. Inside was a stack of papers: durable power of attorney, transfer on death deed, a direct deposit form for my insurance claim with Aaron's bank account number filled in. A sticky note in Brittany's tidy handwriting read, "County Clerk, notary on site. Faster. We'll drive you Friday." "That way," Brittany said, "with the sweet patience of a preschool teacher, you won't have to worry about the adulting. Aaron's really good at this stuff." I smiled. I have a particular smile I wear for people who think they're helping while standing on your oxygen hose. "That's thoughtful," I said, and slid the folder into my purse like a snake I didn't want to provoke. Back at the motel, I sat on the bedspread that had seen too many stories and smoothed the papers with my palm. The power of attorney said Aaron could act for my financial and property decisions. The transfer on death deed would give him the house if I died. The deposit form would send my insurance money to the account he used to pay his bills. There are forms made to free people. There are forms made to bind them. Some are the same forms. It depends on who's holding the pen. I placed the papers back in the folder and felt them there, warm against my leg, when I went to Dot's Diner for pie, because I needed something I could chew without thinking about it too hard. Dot smells like bacon at 8 a.m., like onion rings at noon, and like coffee all day. I took a corner booth and ordered lemon meringue. When the plate came, meringue piled high like Sunday hair, lemon shining. Someone said my name like a question and an answer all at once. "Ellie Hart, is that really you?" I looked up into a face I'd have known anywhere, even under the thunder of years. Cal McKinney, our high school's trumpet section troublemaker, turned firefighter, turned fire captain, turned diner guy. His hair had gone silver and his shoulders had gone steadier. The lines on his face looked like they'd been earned the honest way. He slid into the booth without asking. Cal has always had a way of moving like the space made room for him because it wanted to, not because he demanded it. He said, "Tell me the truth. Do you have what you need right now?" We yesed and noed at each other like adults who were too polite to say everything fast. When I told him about the folder, he didn't make a face. He just took out his phone and texted with the staccato speed of a man who has put out fires that weren't on buildings. He said, "Legal aid clinic at the library tomorrow morning. Bring the folder. Let the pros translate." He topped up my coffee without asking Dot, who pretended not to notice because she likes Cal, and because the widowers in town have a secret union that outranks her sometimes. I ate lemon meringue and felt the sugar wake up my courage. Friday, the library smelt like books and printer toner. The legal aid table had a little plastic sign and a woman in a cardigan, who looked like every good school teacher you've ever had. Her name was Mia. She took my folder and a pen with 3 different ink colors and a yellow highlighter and walked me through each page as if she were teaching me a new quilt pattern. "It isn't wrong to let a kid help," she said, tapping the power of attorney with the capped end of her pen. "But this one doesn't have guardrails. The deposit form puts your insurance in someone else's pocket first. If there's love, there's no rush. If there's rush, we ask why." I tried to laugh and it came out wobbly. "He says it's for convenience." "A lot of folks use that word right before they ask you to hurry," she said. "Let's make a list of what you actually need today, and then you can decide who carries what." We made a list. It was not long, but it was precise. Call the adjuster and ask for a written timeline, open a dedicated rebuild account in my name only, file a brief notice at the recorder's office so nobody could sneak in any deeds with my name on them while my back was turned. Information is a sweater in a cold wind. After legal aid, Cal drove me to the county building. Government buildings in small towns smell like dust and shoe polish and patience. At the clerk's window, Aaron and Brittany were already waiting, polished like show ponies. Brittany wore a dress that would have crumbled if feelings could touch it. Aaron wore his work smile and a tie that said he meant business. He tapped the stack with a fingernail. "Hey, Mom, we got a notary lined up. Quick, in and out." The clerk, tall, shoulders like a coat hanger, hair sprayed into a helmet that could ride out anything, took my ID. She glanced at the forms and then at me, her eyes soft, even when the rest of her had practiced staying neutral. She said, "Ma'am, you don't have to do this today." Brittany's laugh tinkled. "It's fine. She wants to." I looked at my son. His face was my husband's for a second. The exact set of jaw Robert used when he had a thing to fix. It knocked my breath sideways. "Why are your account numbers on my deposit form?" I asked. My voice didn't float. It carried. "For convenience." He didn't flinch when he said it, which almost made me proud. My boy is many things, but he is not a coward. "I'll handle the contractors, the permits, the releases. You don't need to stress." "For your clients," I said, and felt my spine take hold. "Not for your mother." "Mom, you don't have to be dramatic." Behind glass, the clerk paused in her stamping. People who work at counters can feel the temperature of words the way meteorologists feel pressure. Mia's voice was in my head. "If there's love, there's no rush." I set the pen down, and I said, "I'm not signing any of this." As steady as you can say a thing when your hands want to shake. Not today, not ever. Brittany's mouth made a perfect little O. "Ellie, we're just trying to help." "Then help," I said. "Offer your guest room for 2 weeks. Bring casseroles. Sit with me at the house and pull nails from boards. Don't take my signature like you're rescuing me from it." Aaron's ears went pink. He looked at Brittany, then the clerk, then the papers. "Fine," he said, deflated.
We'll do it your way." "Thank you," I said, and meant it. Cal's hand was on my back without quite touching it, the way you reach out to someone on a skiff when they're stepping from one surface to another and the water is dark. We left the county building and walked into a noon so bright it made the bricks look like they were holding their breath. In the parking lot, my chest tightened and my breath went squeaky. Tornado dust sticks around in lungs longer than a person wants. Cal took one look and drove me to the community hospital. The ER nurse put a nebulizer mask over my face and told me to breathe like I was smelling cookies. A volunteer tucked a crocheted blanket over my knees while I sat in a blue recliner and watched the medicine make little clouds. "Where are you sleeping tonight?" Cal asked when I could talk without sounding like a bad accordion. "Apparently the extended stay," I said, and even I could hear the weariness. "I've got an apartment over the garage at the diner," he said, easy. "Used to keep a relief cook there, but the kid went off to trade school. It's old, but it's clean. Rent is helping with the stairs sometimes and picking up eggs from the farm on Old 8. Keys are on a peg by the back door." "Cal, I can't." "You can," he said. "If it were me up to my ankles in a mess, would you offer me a couch?" I nodded. "Then don't argue with me so I don't have to argue with you." That night, I climbed 12 wooden steps behind the diner and opened a door into a square of space that felt like a mercy. It smelled faintly of coffee and waffle batter and someone else's good mornings. There was a small couch covered with a quilt like mine, but not mine. A tiny kitchen with a table that knew the sound of coffee mugs. A bed made with care. I put my tote on a chair and cried because crying when you're safe feels different than crying because you don't know where safety lives. In the morning, I came downstairs to the hush before open and found Cal slicing lemons. He handed me one like a coin and pointed to the hand sink. "Start washing," he said, "and drink some water. You look like a person who forgot water is a thing." He fed me scrambled eggs the way men who have learned late to cook feed people, proud and a little sheepish, like the plate was a secret he was excited to share. Over the next week, I learned the rhythm of dots. The regulars have a thing about booths no matter how many times you wipe them. Cops want coffee even before they want to say why they're there. Truckers leave cash instead of waiting for change. Widowers come for companionship and leave with pie in a to-go clamshell. I chopped fruit, filled ketchup bottles, slid plates down laminate. People gave me their change jars for my rebuild. The town did what towns do right, showed up with small things that added up to a big thing. The adjuster's check came 8 days after the storm. It was less than I wanted, more than I feared. The envelope arrived at the diner because the diner was my address now. Cal tossed the mail on the counter and said, "Your name's on this like it was born to be," and went into the walk-in cooler so I could put my hand on the number and close my eyes. The next morning, Mia met me at the credit union, and we opened an account just for the rebuild. My name alone, my signature on the signature card. The teller gave me a lollipop with the receipt like I was a kid who'd done a brave thing. Then came a different kind of wind. Brittany posted in the subdivision Facebook group about supporting elders while also respecting boundaries and how sometimes tough love is the most loving. I didn't read it. I don't live in a subdivision and I don't go to Facebook to learn about myself. But small towns carry news the way dandelions carry wishes. People told me. People apologized. People took my hand in the cereal aisle and said, "Lord love a duck," which in Cedar Ridge means, "I see you and isn't life ridiculous?" Aaron texted late one night, "We're trying to help. You made me look bad at the courthouse." I stared at the glowing rectangle and thought about how many things in my life were exactly as big as my phone, how many hours I had poured into a box that could not keep me warm. I wrote back, "I love you. I'm okay. Help looks like gloves on Saturday. We start at 9. He showed up in a t-shirt and old jeans that could tell stories. He brought a flat of Gatorade and the apology face he used when he accidentally popped the football through the neighbor's azalea when he was 12. He worked. He worked hard. He pulled nails from half-rotten studs and said, "Ow," when they bit. He carried soggy drawers to the dumpster and didn't make them mean anything. At noon, we sat on the tailgate and ate pimento cheese sandwiches from Dots, and I watched him be his best self. Quiet, useful, present. He wiped his forehead with his forearm and left a streak like a kid in summer. He was my boy then and nobody's fiancé. "Mom," he said, mouthful, which is when people tell the truth. "I'm sorry. I tried to make it easier and I made it worse. Brittany's been She's been on me about protecting our peace. I heard control where she said care. It's my pattern. I fix things for a living, and I forget I can't fix people. Do you want to marry someone who thinks peace is a thing you hoard? I asked, gentle but not weak. He stared at the field across the way like it had answers. He don't know what I want, he said. But I know I don't want to lose my mom because I was too proud to admit I messed up. Then you won't, I said. Not on this. The rest is up to you. We got back to work. A woman from my church showed up with a cooler and a tool belt and a laugh that scared the hornets back to where they lived. A man from the VFW came with 2 younger guys and a ladder that looked like it had been through wars. Kids from the Methodist youth group held trash bags and said, "Yes, ma'am," with the ferocity of kids who've been told it matters. The mayor stopped by, awkward and earnest, and took a picture for the city's page before the sweat could ruin her hair. She hugged me after, not for the photo, but because her mother had been gone 5 years, and sometimes hugging someone else's mother can stand in for what you miss. That night, I climbed the stairs to the apartment and found a bag on the kitchen table with my name on it. Inside were 2 dish towels with chickens on them, a 6-pack of socks, a bar of good soap wrapped in paper like a present, and a note in block letters, "For your start, C." I put the towels on the oven handle and folded the note small and small again until it fit in a little jar by the sink where I keep fortune cookie slips that say ordinary things like, "You will have a nice day," and sometimes mean it. The town held a fundraiser for all of us with storm damage. It was in the high school gym because there's no better room in a small town for the purpose of getting people together to feel something. The 5th grade choir sang "This Little Light of Mine." The mayor handed out oversized checks from corporations who like to take their pictures with local folks when local folks need help. The county judge said words about resilience that made me think he'd practiced in his bathroom until they sounded like his. Dot bossed the dessert table like a general, and Cal grilled outside with a line of men wearing identical aprons and the kind of expression reserved for meat and babies. When the judge thanked first responders and community anchors, he said Cal's name, and the gym clapped. Cal's ears went pink again. He tipped his cap without quite looking at me. He drove me home and walked me up the stairs like someone who had once held a ladder for a man on a roof and remembered what falling looks like. At the door, he cleared his throat. I meant what I said about the apartment, open-ended, until you want different. "Thank you," I said, and the words were a small thing and a big thing at the same time. For the lemons, for the clinic, for knowing how to stand to the side and still be right there. He was my own wife a long time. I learned some things too late to use them where I should have. "Me too," I said. We stood there like that for a long heartbeat. Then he tapped the railing twice like a person knocking on wood after saying something that feels like a wish, and went back down into the warm light of the diner. Weeks turned into a pattern. Mornings at the diner, afternoons at the house or the bank or the hardware store, evenings visiting my ladies at Meadowlark Senior Living with my sewing kit. At Meadowlark, Miss Ruby told me about the winter in '58 when the river froze and they skated on it wearing their Sunday wool socks pulled over their shoes. Miss Jean let me hem her slacks while she talked about the husband who used to dance her around the kitchen until the gravy boiled over, and she learned to put the pot on the back burner if he came up behind her humming. Mr. Collier, who had a voice like gravel poured into a glass jar, told me about the first time he saw his wife at a roller rink, all ponytail and pink lipstick, and how she told him he couldn't skate worth a lick. He grinned so wide his dentures clicked. "Married her anyway," he said. "She taught me how to turn without falling." At home, my temporary home above the diner, I learned to sleep all the way through the night again. That sounds small. It is not. Sleep is the body's way of voting for tomorrow. On Sundays, Cal took me to the VFW fish fry, and we sat at a long table with men who wore hats with patches and women who could run a raffle with their eyes closed. We didn't hold hands. We didn't do anything that would make news. We passed coleslaw and corrected each other's stories like people who had been watching each other from across town for years. The rebuild moved forward in fits and starts, like any good project. A subcontractor forgot we were on the schedule the same week a different subcontractor remembered me twice. A stack of 2x4s got stolen and then showed up again when the thief realized nobody wants to buy wood that smells like my garage. I learned the names of materials I had never cared about before and cared about them anyway. The first time I picked paint, I chose a color named oat flower because I liked how it sounded. The second time, when Cal and I painted the kitchen for real, I chose pie crust because that's what the room wanted to be. One morning, I found Brittany at the house with her phone out, walking slowly through like a real estate agent who has already staged your life in her head. She looked up and smiled like we were at a bridal shower. "We were thinking," she said, "that with the market so good and interest rates doing their thing, maybe we could list this and get you into something maintenance-free. You'd be so much more comfortable." "You are going to be very good at your job," I said, and meant it. "This is not your job." She pushed a piece of hair behind her ear and smiled wider. I just want what's best. Sometimes what's best is learning to leave a thing alone." I did not say the rest, which was that I was building a house that fit me and my memories and my hands, and I would not trade it for a box with an HOA that sends nasty letters when you forget to roll your trash can back down the driveway by noon. After she left, I swept the floor until the anger went out of my arms. Later that night, Aaron called. "She's not the enemy," he said, tired. "She thinks she's helping." "I didn't call her an enemy. I called it my house." "I know," he said. I'm learning to say that about some things too." "How's the therapist?" I asked, though it wasn't my business. "She says I carry other people's certainty like it's a gift. She says I'm going to put my back out if I don't put some of it down." I smiled into the silence. "Bring her a pimento cheese sandwich and tell her she's right." In September, the town held a homecoming parade. I stood on the curb with a cup of cider and watched the band march down Main Street in uniforms that looked smaller than I remembered. They played the same fight song we played when Cal pretended to be cool and actually cared very much. The football boy threw candy. The cheerleaders waved with their whole bodies. Cal stood next to me and reached into his pocket when a little candy airplane landed at his feet. He handed it to me like it was an invitation. When the team had passed and the tractors rolled by and the baton twirlers made their last brave spins, Cal touched my elbow. "Come see something," he said. He drove us out past the water tower to a stand of maples that had decided to be early. We got out and crunched leaves. He leaned against the truck and looked at me the way people look at lakes they have fished their whole lives and still don't know all the secrets of. "I always thought I'd retire to a place where nobody knows me," he said. "Start fresh. But the older I get, the more I think I want to end up where they can't pretend they didn't see all the good and the bad. Here they know who I was when I was an idiot at 17 and who I was when I made captain. I like that about this place. I like that about you." I cucked my hands into my sleeves and looked at his boots and then at his face. "You trying to say something to me, McKinney?" "I'm trying to say," he said, careful, "that if you want to try a thing with me that looks like showing up, I'm here. I'm not in a hurry. I'm not going anywhere. I know where the grocery store keeps the good napkins and which washing machine in the laundromat eats quarters. I can fix a toilet that runs at 3 a.m., and I can leave you alone when that's what love looks like. There are moments when all the versions of your life line up like panes of glass and you can see a line through them. I could see myself on my porch swing with a book, him walking up with iced tea, us not making a fuss. I could see the diner on a snow day, me in boots and him pretending to be mad that everybody tracked wet footprints. I could see Sunday dinners with my son when he remembered how to be sweet, and holidays where we ate what we wanted and no one had to carve a turkey just because a calendar said so. "I'm thinking about it," I said.
It felt like the truth. He nodded like a man whose favorite word is patience. October brought rain and workers who show up when it's dry. The house got meat on its bones again. Walls went up. The first time I stood in what would be the kitchen and could put my hand on a stud and feel the room in my body, I leaned my forehead against the wood and thanked it for standing. I picked a sink deep enough to hold a Dutch oven because I am tired of playing Tetris with good pans, and a stove with knobs that make sense. I chose a fridge with a real freezer because I am not and will never be a person who eats only fresh. Some sorrows require ice cream, and you cannot make ice cream without cold. On a Wednesday, the building inspector came through with a clipboard and approved the rough-in. "You've done it right," he said. "Not everyone listens to advice. Good job." It was the most romantic thing anyone had said to me in months. On a Thursday, Brittany texted something about flooring trends. I sent back a thumbs up and chose the one that would feel good under bare feet when the coffee is not ready yet. On a Friday, Aaron took the afternoon off work and helped me carry in boxes from the storage unit where I had stashed what the tornado didn't get. He held up a ceramic rooster and made it cluck. I laughed. We wrapped my grandmother's rolling pin in a towel like it was a baby, which in a way it is. At sunset, he sat on the porch steps and looked at the street like he had lived on it once too. "Mom, I want you over for dinner on Sundays when you're ready." "On my terms," I said.
"On your terms," he agreed without making a face, which told me something had changed in him that had nothing to do with me and everything to do with the work he was doing in rooms I would never see. November made the air taste like apples. Cal and I drove to the VFW fish fry and sat across from a couple who'd been married for 58 years. They argued about tartar sauce, and the woman patted her husband's hand after like she had just done something holy. Cal and I danced one slow song in the corner near the plaques, my cheek against his shirt, his chin almost, not quite, on the top of my head. We stepped on each other's feet and didn't apologize. We smiled into the air we were making together. In December, the town put lights up on Main Street. Someone knitted scarves for the lamp posts, and the library hosted a toy drive. And Dot put peppermint in everything until the whole diner smelled like candy canes that melted on a griddle. Cal brought home a tree, and we set it up on the diner counter after closing and decorated it with cookie cutters and handwritten ornaments the regulars made while they waited for pancakes. I wrote hope on mine. Cal wrote coffee on his and grinned like he told a very funny joke, which, in a way, he had. On Christmas Eve, Aaron came by the apartment with a paper bag and a look that belonged to a different boy. He opened the bag and took out a can of green beans, a can of mushroom soup, and a box of fried onions. He figured if I made the green bean casserole, it would mean something. Like I'm not just good at signing things, I'm good at carrying them and stirring. We made green bean casserole in a pan too nice for it, and it tasted like better times do when you meet them where they're standing. He sat on the floor and told me that Brittany was moving in with her sister for a while to think about some things, and he was learning how to be okay with that. "I want to love someone who thinks peace is something we build together," he said, and I did not say I do too, but it hung between us like a wreath. The year turned. January was cold and slow and full of forms. February was ladders and swearing, and that one day when I sat on the floor of the half-done living room and cried because the insulation itched and I had lost the carry-out menu for the only Chinese place in town that understands egg foo young, and Cal came in and sat on the floor next to me and poured cashews into my palm and told me the best story about a dog that used to follow the fire truck like it was on the payroll. March woke up like a yawn and a stretch, and then suddenly it was move-in day. The church kids carried boxes, and the VFW men fixed a hinge. Miss Ruby sent over a plant. Dot sent baked spaghetti and a key to the diner so I could come down any time I forgot sugar or my own name. Cal stood in the doorway holding 2 keys on a hardware store ring like we were in a movie. He didn't make a speech. He just said, "Welcome home."
Home is not just a set of walls. It is the way a room holds your place when you step out of it. It is the way a porch knows the weight of your sorrow and the creak of your joy. It is how a drawer feels when it slides exactly the way you knew it would because you put it on the good hardware and you did not let someone else tell you that wasn't worth the extra money. I set my grandmother's rolling pin on the counter and took a breath and felt it go all the way down without catching on anything. On the first Sunday in the house, Aaron knocked and opened the door the way he did when he was little. He brought a pie from Dot's and a shy smile. He looked around like he wanted to memorize the room. "It smells like you. Cinnamon and laundry?" I said, "That's the detergent I used when you were a kid. Muscle memory." He hugged me with his whole chest, not just his arms. Brittany sent a text that said, "Congratulations," and a picture of a puppy she had adopted. I wrote back, "Cute," and meant it. That night, after the last dish was dry and the lamp was the only light on in the room, I sat on the floor in the spot where the tornado had pretty much taken a swing and didn't hit. I pressed my palm to the boards. They were warm from the day. I closed my eyes and said the quiet kind of thank you people say who believe and people say who don't.
If you're listening to this at your kitchen table or in your car or in a break room that smells like burnt coffee, I want to tell you the thing I learned at the clerk's window with the blue pen in my hand and my son trying to make the world neat and tidy and convenient, and a clerk who had seen enough stories to know where mine was headed if I didn't say, "Stop." Family is not a stack of forms with a signature line. Family is not a deposit routing number. Family is a promise to show up without taking the pen from someone else's hand. There is a kind of help that fits like a good glove and a kind that fits like a handcuff. Learn the difference. Keep your paperwork in a folder with your name on it. Ask for the words in plain English, and if someone tries to hurry you, ask them why. And if you find yourself in the wrong place with the right people, the way I found myself in a diner with a man who knew how to hand me napkins when the crying started, and who knew how to stand just to the side while I said no to the wrong thing so I could say yes to the right one, hold tight to that. A few weeks after I moved home, I stood in my new kitchen in my old robe and watched sunrise use my cabinets like a mirror. I poured coffee into the mug I'd used for 20 years, and the world felt both brand new and familiar. Someone knocked on the door. It was Cal, holding a paper bag and that face he makes when he is trying to look casual and is not. "I brought biscuits," he said. "I figured we could test the butter situation." "We can test it all day," I said, and stepped back so he could come into a house that knew him like a friend and was starting to know him like a thing that belongs. We ate at the counter, standing, crumbs on our fingers, the quiet kind of happiness tucked in with the soft parts. Later, he washed the dishes the way men who have lived alone wash dishes, with intention and some surprise that it feels good. I dried and put them in drawers I had chosen. We didn't say much. There wasn't much to say. When he left, he touched the door frame the way he had on the first day, 2 taps like knocking on wood. I watched him go down the path and felt that line inside me, the one the clerk's whisper straightened out, "Hold steady." I still had the blue pen. I keep it in the drawer with the envelopes and stamps and the good scissors the grandkids are not allowed to touch when they visit someday. Sometimes I take it out and turn it in my hand and remember the moment I heard a woman in a county office tell me I didn't have to do the thing that was easiest for everyone else and hardest for me. Sometimes the holiest thing anyone can say to you is, "You can wait, you can think, you can choose." Months later, the house got baptized by laughter. The quilting circle from Meadowlark came over and sat around my table and bullied me in love about my thread choices. Miss Ruby fell asleep in my armchair with the cat on her lap. Aaron showed up late, hair sticking up from a Sunday nap, and fixed a cabinet door without being asked. He stayed for supper and left without asking if I needed anything, because he finally understood that wanting him there and needing him to run my life were two different things, and that one of those things is the way love looks, and the other is what fear dresses up like when it wants to be helpful. Cal asked me a question one evening in June on the porch that feels like a kindness each time I step on it. He didn't kneel because he is 65 and his knees have opinions. He held a small ring that looked like something a sensible woman would wear doing dishes. "Do you want to call what we're doing?" he asked. "What are we doing?" I asked, though I knew. "Showing up, making coffee, carrying boxes, finding your reading glasses on top of your head, putting gas in your car when you forget, listening to you tell stories about the ladies at Meadowlark and pretending not to like them and absolutely liking them, being there when your son learns how to be brave in the way that matters." "Yes," I said, which is a holy word if you use it right. We got married in the back room of the diner with the smell of coffee as our witness. The pastor from Dot's church said the words. Dot cried. The VFW men stood awkward and earnest like men who would rather move furniture than stand still. Aaron hugged me so hard my ribs sang. After, we ate pie out of paper plates, and Cal kissed me like a man who understood that life gives you second chances if you'll live long enough and don't get in their way. If you are listening to this because someone sent it to you and said you need to hear this, I hope you heard the parts that were for you. The part where you are allowed to say no without adding a paragraph of apology. The part where you can accept a spare apartment over a garage because saying yes doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. The part where the people who love you will learn to love you at the speed you need, or they will not, and both are answers. The part where your son can be both the boy you raised and the man who's learning, and you can hold both truths without letting either one of them run your life. And the part where sometimes, when the world peels your roof off and hands you a sky you didn't ask for, you step out under it and realize you can breathe. On nights when the air is clear and the cicadas tell their polite lies, I sit on my porch swing with a glass of iced tea and watch the street remember how to be a street. Sometimes Cal joins me and we don't talk. Sometimes Aaron shows up, and he does. Sometimes nobody comes, and I don't mind. The kitchen glows behind me. The house holds. Somewhere, at a counter I love, a bell dings and someone says, "Order up." And life, which is ordinary in the best way, keeps doing the thing it does when people stop trying to make it something else. The morning after our small wedding, I woke up before Cal and padded into the kitchen. I put the kettle on, I took out 2 mugs. I looked at the blue pen in the drawer and put it back. On the fridge is a magnet the VFW gave away at the fish fry. It says, "Plan, prepare, don't panic." I changed it with the marker because I'm me. It says, "Plan, prepare, ask for help when you need it." It feels like enough. So, if you need a thing from this story to carry in your pocket, take this. Family is showing up without stealing the pen. Love is the slow work of staying. Your name belongs on your life. And when a woman at a county clerk's window whispers that you don't have to do the hard thing for someone else's convenience, listen to her. She might be saving your house. She might be saving the part of you that knows home is a place you make and protect and live inside like it was made for you. Because it is.